Welcome to another episode of the Journee Continues Podcast, where we share stories of hope, recovery, resilience, and transformation. Today's guest is Dr. Lardell Spratt, an author, keynote speaker, life coach, minister, and advocate whose journey from incarceration to purpose is inspiring lives across the country. His story reminds us that our past doesn't have to define our future. Dr. Spratt, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
So, let's begin with your story. Who is Dr. Lardell Spratt, and what you want people to know about you beyond your title?
Dr. Lardell Spratt is better known as Coach Dale. Just a simple man. I am a survivor of domestic violence in my own household. Survivor of childhood, being a childhood addict. And of the system, of the penal system, unfortunately. Unfortunately, but fortunately, that's where I found who I truly am. And that was when they put me in the hole several times. And that's when I really had a chance to reflect inside me and see who I am and what I am and whose I am. And so from that point on, Lardell went from being a created monster or a menace in his community to a community activist, a community advocate, and a paraclete for men and women, for humanity. That's what I try to be, a comforter for humanity now.
Before prison, what was happening in your life that ultimately led to your incarceration?
Yeah, that's a deep story. So I would be remiss not to go to the beginning, and I'm gonna try to make it brief. But I've come from a broken single parent home. My mother was broken. She was born in the 40s in Mississippi, and to 13, had 13 or 12 other siblings. So Mississippi was tough in itself, but she experienced a lot of abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse. Was not allowed to go to school, so uneducated, and it tainted her to men, especially toward melanated men. So she came here to Detroit trying to create a life for herself. Unfortunately, she fell into drug usage, and she then had me. She bore me in 1968. And it was tough, man, because of how she felt towards melanated men. I always got the brunt of her. I was like a trigger for her. So she would beat me. She tried to shoot at me in my home. She tried to hang me in my home. My brother came along, and she had strong feelings for his father. I don't know who my father was, but she never mistreated him like that. It was always me. And so because of that, what she didn't know is inadvertently she created a monster. I seen that violence was a way to get things done. Violence was a way to make people bend to your will. So I became the bully at school initially, and then next I became a minister to my community, which led to and like I say, also I became an addict. I followed her steps on that as well. I became an addict. So from 12, 13, 14, I was smoking crack on marijuana, which they call 51s. And ultimately, in 1987, at 19 and a half, something like that, 18, 19 and a half, I discharged a weapon and took the life of another human being, another man, a brother. But the mindset, excuse my sciences, the mindset was I was always taught, quote unquote, a nigga ain't shit, right? From my mother, always. So unconsciously, I didn't value a melanated man at all because of what I heard and seen how she treated melanated men. I didn't value them. So, it was not anything for me to do that, unfortunately. So, yeah, I served from 1987 to 2006, nearly 20 years of incarceration.
Thank you for your transparency.
Yes, ma'am.
Was there a defining moment when you were incarcerated, when you decided your life had to change?
Definitely. I contemplated suicide several times. I never told any of my peers, of course. Contemplated suicide several times, and the administration didn't like me. Not so much because I was a violent inmate, but because I was what they consider influential. So the other inmates kind of listened to me. I was able to create. I helped to create a board there amongst the inmates so that the gangs in there wouldn't just commit groups of violence on each other, but we controlled it. So they always transferred me up north or put me in the hole. So this one particular time out, so many times out of the many times they put me in the hole, I think I was in the hole for about a year and a half at this point. And that means no TV. You can't even tell if it's light or dark outside. No, nothing. You're just in that cell. And at that point, I said, man, I'm done. Right? Either I'm gonna lose my mind or I'm gonna kill myself. One of the two. So I'm just trying to figure that out. And all of a sudden, I hear this voice from within. Now, not a technical voice, but it was an inner voice, but it came with a feeling, and it came with a peaceful feeling that I never recognized, and it said that you're worthy. So I'm looking around the cell like, what the heck? I thought I was losing my mind at that point, but the feeling was so peaceful. I had never felt that before. Not growing up in my home, not in the communities I grew up in, West Side Detroit, none of that. So I decided to listen to it, and I decided to go with it. And from that point on, in the hole, detached from everything, I was able to go within. And the very thing that the administration thought would tear me down finally was the place where it built me up. It made me stronger. I was able to go within, man, and really see the self. I want to add, I don't wish incarceration on anyone, not my worst enemy, but I do wish that society had the opportunity, especially melanated people, had the opportunity to detach. I see the importance of that, like in that movie, The Matrix. If you can detach just for a little while, 30, 60, 90 days, you don't have to worry about children, bills, none of that. And you really have a chance to reflect and go within. Ooh, powerful, powerful.
Reentry back into society can be incredibly difficult. What were some of the biggest challenges after?
Well, actually, they did an article on me, which I still got the clipping with the Michigan Chronicle, and so the gentleman asked me that, and I said, "Well, man, only thing I can say is I liken it unto 1865 when melanated folks was told you're quote unquote free. Um, they was like, yay, 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 but then they said, okay, what are we going to do? So they started hanging around on corners and sitting around because there was no training, there was no jobs, and next thing you know, they come up with vagrancy laws, right? But uh, but yeah, it was like that. I'm released, but they didn't arm you. It's the Department of Corrections is not a organization that prepares you for society, unfortunately. Um, it was very fearful. I was very fearful, and my fears came out as aggression. This world was very big, and my world was small. You got the guys from the block; they see me. They always consider me stand up when from the hood in prison. As long as you don't tell on nobody, or you don't swing the other way. You stay straight. You know what I mean, and all that. They figure you're a stand up guy, so the first thing they want to do is let me bring you in the crew and put this key in your hand because you a stand up guy. Not let me find you a job. Let me plug you in with a business. Let me let me put you back in the game. So I had all that pulling at me. So it was definitely scary and difficult.
Many people struggle to find employment, housing, and acceptance after incarceration. What advice you give someone just beginning that journey?
I would say first and foremost, know that you're not alone, that the creator, Yahweh, God, the Father, is with you. So you're not alone. That's the first thing. The second thing is really when you land with your feet, when the rubber hit the road, I mean, go out in leaps and bounds. So you get all of your ID, all the identification, but don't be too proud. I went to the halfway house. It was almost like prison, but guess what? I stayed there. I stayed there until it was time for me to go. Fortunately, I had an uncle who allowed me to then leave the halfway house and go to his home. In these days and times, there's not a lot of monies out because the government's making a lot of cuts. There's not a lot of individuals who are willing to open up their doors. Matter of fact, as the NSO housing specialist at one time, it was my job to bring new property managers in to warm them up to the idea of even renting to a person who is a returning citizen. So this world is not easy, but I would say it's doable as long as you got this in the right direction. And their failure is not an option is the motto. Because if you don't, you'll find yourself, oh, well, you know what, forget that. I'm going to go back over here to the street, or I'm going to do this, and you're compromising yourself, and it won't work. They're counting on you coming back, and they're counting on you coming back with a long time and bringing some friends. That system supports communities. I remember when they sent me up north to Munison. I'm going across the Mackinac. I mean, Shackle. And they sent me across to Munison, and that little hick town, that prison was, the industry had left, right? Farming was low. You smell cow poop all day long, but there was only a few farmers there. The auto industry had kind of moved on. So they needed the new industry was human cattle. You know, that prison was sustaining them.
Today, you're an author, speaker, a coach, and a minister. How did you form your pain to purpose?
Definitely God's help, but my obedience to listen and believe and have faith in it. I think once I had that aha moment in prison, I realized because at first I thought I thought I did not like people. I'm gonna tell you, my life with people was rough, but I found out I'm a people person, and so guys in there who couldn't read or write, they were having issues with the officers, and their first inclination was to assault the officer, right? And so I would say, no, look, let me help you write a grievance. Well, man, can you read it right? Oh man, come on, I'll walk you through it. I'll do that part. You just tell me what happened. I try to find alternatives to getting in trouble and hurting somebody, right? The officers come in there, really tell you the truth. They got to feed their family, right? So it's business. It ain't personal for the most part. Some in it is, but it ain't personal for the most part. And so, no, I just think that it's not. Boy, I got emotional for a second. Ask me that question again.
It is okay. I said, the question was, how did you transform your pain into purpose?
I think that I took my own advice and I realized that I am a people person and I let God lead. And so everything I do, the books, at first I thought I was scattered, but the books, the ministry, what I do, having a social service technician license, peer support, everything I do is really geared towards the betterment or assisting someone in person-centered goals or establishing their own person-centered goals, holding them accountable to see them through. Because the important thing is, while I'm doing that, I'm actually assisting myself. So I find that the more I assist another human being, the better I feel and the more pieces I put together in my puzzle. It's crazy. I can't explain it, but yeah, I just seen that helping helping is a powerful tool.
I totally agree. I
Yeah,
totally agree with you.
hey,
They say when A helps B helps A the most. Hello. Okay. So I
yeah,
totally agree.
yeah.
Your work focuses heavily on redemption and second chance. What does redemption truly mean?
That's a good one. Um, like right now, I submitted a my own because the attorneys kept trying to charge me 7 and 10,000, which I don't have. So I submitted my own brief for pardon. Because I've been home now. I did 20, but I've been home 20 plus years, married 19 and a half, own my home. Of course, life is still a struggle, but despite my past, I think I made a few accomplishments. So I put that into the brief. I explained to the governor, which there is in review now in Lansing. I said, who are we if we are not individuals willing to give an individual, another human being, the benefit of the doubt of a second chance? Redemption is more than a word. It's definitely more than a word. It has to be action, right? And it has to be true action. For redemption to truly happen, a person have to change their heart. And you notice I'm on point here. They have to truly change their heart. They have to really want something better for themselves and for someone else. They have to want to treat others how they want to be treated and not treat others how they wouldn't want to be treated. You have to see life as a gift, as a blessing, and this little time we have as the what they call that the tithe that we share with others, right? That to me, that's redemption. That's why I know my change is. I tell people I'm not a more so a different person. I am a better version of myself. I think that the best person for any community is a dangerous woman or man who has discipline over their tongue, their character, their morals, their principles, right? That they know how to move as a good human being. You could take Bruce Lee, Muhammad Ali. We can name a whole bunch of people, dangerous people in their craft. But guess what? When you meet them and talk to them, you're like, oh, that's just the sweetest person. Those are the people that are the best for the community when you have that discipline of self. So yeah, redemption is real. I wholeheartedly know it from my personal experience, and that's what I try to share with others. No matter what you've been through, you can turn that around. But it starts with self and that connection with a higher power, those morals and principles. Yes, ma'am.
From your perspective, what changes would make the biggest difference to people returning home from prison?
Ooh, I truly believe, and this just something. This is an argument that I always have. The 13th Amendment, the same amendment that they say freed the melanated person, people, quote unquote, free, and I use that loosely. That that amendment says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude shall be practiced in the United States or any jurisdiction thereof, except if the person has been duly convicted of a crime. So slavery was never abolished as they are taught in school. It was rerouted into the penal system. So that means when you get there, they don't want you to leave. And if you do leave, you one of the few to leave. Well, you leave and you one of the few that remain gone. I think that if we change or tweak the 13th Amendment to take out the language that justifies slavery and involuntary servitude, I think the system would be better inside to prepare people to be a part of society, a fabric of the community. And once they leave, there'll be real follow up, real follow up. I'm fortunate. I am fortunate because I think I was set aside. I think some people are set aside. I know I see my life. I know I can't. I used to be like, nah, I ain't nothing special. Yep, no, it is. I'm one of y'all's chosen, and I'm chosen for a mission and a job. And so, but I know most people don't recognize that for themselves, and so it's a little harder. Sometimes it's a lot harder. But when it comes to, I'm gonna tell you that recidivism is driven by not only that 13th Amendment, and the officers want you to stay. They'll tell you your job security. So you got that part. But then, because of the 13th Amendment and the acknowledgement of slavery and voluntary servitude, you don't get the true mental health, substance abuse, the health things that's going on. You don't truly get those addressed. So what happens is people come out, men and women, and they fall back into addiction or their mental health decline. Now they find themselves catching a case and not really fully at fault, or they don't have health care and they worried about the health. So they like, hey, you know what? I'd rather go back to prison because it was free and I can just put in a kite and go over there. I can't afford this out here. So all the things that drive recidivism, if we change the 13th Amendment, will not only prepare people to be citizens, but once out, it will do follow-up care for those individuals. So that's what I truly believe. Now, in a smaller scale, and because this is an imperfect world, I would say I would implore individuals coming home, once you get some insurance, if it's just state insurance, get a therapist. Not just any therapist. Get a therapist that you're comfortable with. For me, it has to be an older gentleman. Right? I click better with older men. But whoever it is, find someone, go through several of them until you find the one that you got that connection with, and then you work with them, because PICS and PTSD and all that stuff is real. It's real.
Yes, it is real. So you speak to church congregations, colleges, organizations, and justice programs, and individual students.
Yeah.
What message do you hope every audience should, for what you say?
I think for me, the biggest message would be realize that self, the power of self is huge, right? But we can't be selfish. So as you learn yourself, you grow within yourself, then it's your obligation to share that wisdom, that humanity with someone else. I wear the shirt that says humanity in the front, and it's a beautiful shirt. And when I'm walking my dog and people look, and I'm like, man, one or two people came up and said, man, that's a nice shirt. Simply being the best human being you can be, doing unto others as you would have them do unto you, not doing unto others as you would not have them do unto you. Being a good human being. What more can you ask? Because if my neighbors are good human beings, no matter what I'm going through, I have kindred spirits to relate to. I have somebody to bring me up instead of tear me down. And in any situation, divorce, grief through death, any situation, as long as humans treating you kind, with humility and humanity, you can't go wrong. Rich or poor.
Right. Many people watching may feel like they've made too many mistakes, or they just can't rebuild their lives. What would you say directly to?
Analogy, pulled up on these young dudes, because I pull up on young dudes in a minute. They call them YNs. I hate that title, but I was talking to him about the ministry, and one of these young men say, well, you gonna be talking about sins and all this damnation and hell and all this for what we did and all this. And I said, can I give you an analogy? He said, I said, no, at first. He was like, wow. I said, can I give you an analogy? He said, yeah. I said, so what I tell people is this, and this addresses you. What I tell people is this. Imagine I got a glass, a nice size glass, pretty glass, but it's half full with the dirtiest oil you could ever find on earth. I mean, car oil, whatever, dirty oil. And then I have a pitcher in my hand over here, large pitcher of clear water. I mean, drinkable, clean, crystal clear water, cold. So I got the pitcher here, I got the glass here, right? Now, I take the pitcher and I start slowly pouring it into the glass. I asked him, I said, what do you think eventually will happen? He said, well, eventually, since oil and water don't mix, the oil going to come out and the water going to fill the glass. I said, precisely. I said, listen, I can ask you what your sins are, what you've done in your past, and you only going to tell me the sins you're not embarrassed about, right? That's human. I said, so I wouldn't waste my time with that. My thing is, I'm going to introduce you to the God power that's within you, the life force that's within you, the goodness that you already possess, right? You don't have to search for it. It's already there. I'm going to reintroduce you there because I'm not giving you nothing. The ministry is not giving you anything. I'm just helping you reconnect what you already have, right? So now, once you reconnect that connection, you turn from facing away from your personal inner spirit to facing that spirit face to face. Now, every time I see you, I'm going to encourage you on your prayer life. I'm going to encourage you on your sacrifice through fasting and through sacrificing this on this human plane to be a spiritual being, to be a better human being. Every time I see you, I'm going to encourage that. And guess what eventually happened? He said, what? I said, eventually, just like that oil in that cup, your sin's going to run out. I don't have to beat you down with that. I'm just going to encourage you with the truth because the light, as soon as you turn on the light in the dark room, that dark scatters. It might be in little corners, in little shadows. It can't stay in the light. So that's what I encourage people, no matter what you've done. Look at me. There's only 2 capital offenses. One is rape, which is bad, and the other is murder, which is worse. I committed one of the 2 worst. So no, I know that if there's redemption for me, there's redemption for all of us. But we gotta want it.
I love that analogy.
Thank you.
I love that. Not just criticizing someone for what they've done or you need to do this. I'm just gonna pour into you. I'm gonna keep pouring into you until something clicks up in here. Up in here, and you like, wow, I'm made for something bigger than.
That's it. He told me, he said, oh, I'm down with that. Let me know when you popping off. That tripped me out. But yeah, that's that. I love the writings and the sayings of the Christ. Some people you might choose to say Jesus. I say Yeshua, but it's the same person, right? The Christ made things really simple, really to the point. If you look at all of the written quotes of the Christ and you boil them all down, what you'll find is that it's the words of the Christ simply mean this: be a good human being, treat each other nicely and good, treat the earth and nature good, first of all, have an obligation to the Father. Then treat yourself nice, treat your family, your community nice, treat the earth in which we live, our home, nice. That's what else do you need to know? What else do you need to know? You don't need to know nothing else.
Thank you. So before we wrap up, I ask every guest this question. What does the journey continues mean to you?
The journey continues for me means that from the cradle to the grave. Now, since I'm held responsible, I'm held liable for the things I don't do. Now, since my eyes are open, once my conscious eye became open, and I'm aware of the work that the Great Father has for me to do, I must do it from the cradle to the grave. That don't mean I got pains every day. Oh man, sometimes I doubt. It gets tough. Some days rougher than others. I don't even want to get out the bed or shave. But guess what? I make my way up. I remember the mission. and I do something good. I don't care if it's a conversation. I don't care if it's, I don't know what it is. I'm going to do something good and something meaningful every day. So that's it. That's it. Just continue to try to be an example, whether it's just in my household with my grandchildren and my wife and my children, or if I'm out in public, or if I'm at my job, or if I'm speaking, or if I'm in a store. Hey, how you doing? If they don't speak, fine. I don't catch up. Most time, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm peaceful. Man, I love that. Yep. And guess what? I'm old enough to know if I'm not peaceful, I'm gonna claim it because words say creating story. You ain't lying. And it just, you walk in a room and you just see things change and shift. I love that.
They say, what they say, the tongue has power. So the power, the powers is the life and death is in the tongue. Life and death is in our tongue. So it's
Yeah.
determined on what we speak.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. That is true. That is 110% true.
So Dr. Spratt, we want to say thank you for sharing your
Thank
story and reminding us that transformation is possible. To everyone watching, remember that your circumstances don't have to determine your destiny. Every day is an opportunity and again. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear this message. Until next time, remember the journey continues.